Thank you for watching. Subscribe on Deceived Husbands for more stories. I was in the basement, finishing up the recreation room I'd promised my 14-year-old daughter, Emily. The ceiling and walls were done, and it enclosed the area under the stairs for extra storage. Now I was laying down the indoor-outdoor carpet I bought a few days ago. I had plenty of time since my wife, Jessica, was in Minneapolis visiting her sister. The house was all mine today, with Emily at a sleepover at her friend's place. I had talked with the friend's dad, who assured me he and his wife would be home all night. They were good people, so I felt comfortable. I thought back to the night before Jessica left. It was a Sunday night, and as usual, she was angry with me, not wanting to discuss her trip. She only said she needed some time away and would be gone for 2 weeks. Jessica hadn't worked since she lost her job at the real estate agency about 2 years ago, but since I made good money, there was no rush for her to find something new. She decided to take a break from working, but I hoped the time off would help us fix the growing distance in our marriage. It hadn't. My name is Tom Richards, and I'm 49, a partner at Richards Cohen Attorneys. Dave Cohen and I started our practice in Seattle almost 15 years ago. Linda Jackson joined us a few years later, and our firm thrived, specializing in corporate law. I haven't been in court much recently since we have a strong team of younger lawyers eager to prove themselves. They all wanted to make partner, but since we'd added only 2 partners in 15 years, they fought all the harder. I mentored them through the challenges of corporate law and then let them handle the rest. Linda, our practicing partner, was relentless, driving them hard, but they seemed to enjoy their time at our firm, which boosted their resumed GCs. Jessica and I got married 16 years ago, both of us on our second marriage. We had a daughter together, Emily. My first wife died in a car crash, and we didn't have kids, but Jessica had a son from her first marriage, now 23, who lived with his dad after the divorce. He was married with kids now, and Jessica talked to him occasionally, though I'm pretty sure she hadn't visited them. She didn't like discussing him, so I eventually stopped asking. Emily was born 14 years ago, and she was our last since Jessica had serious complications during delivery, leading to a hysterectomy. That was the end of her childbearing years, but we were okay with it. We had gone through the process of retrieving and saving some of Jessica's eggs before the surgery, but we eventually let them expire. Emily was enough for both of us, and by the time we needed to decide, our marriage was already showing cracks. Jessica's parents lived in Minneapolis, and we used to visit them a couple of times a year as a family. Jessica occasionally went by herself or with Emily, but it had been over a year since Emily or I had been there. Jessica had gone to visit her parents shortly after losing her job. Rather than improving things, her mood darkened after she stopped working. When she finally said she wanted to go stay with her sister for a while, I agreed, hoping some time apart would help. I missed her after just a few days, but she didn't seem to feel the same. She extended her stay, turning a planned week-long visit into a 2-week trip. My parents passed away years ago, and I was an only child, so Emily and Jessica's parents were my only family. The relationship between Jessica's mother and me was strained, and Jessica seemed more attached to her mother than her father, which caused tension. I liked her dad, and we became friends, keeping in touch by phone and email, but even that had dwindled over the past couple of years. I assumed it had to do with her mother's attitude toward me. She and I barely spoke, and my relationship with her dad suffered because of it. But I never resented Jessica's visits with her family. This trip wasn't routine. It followed nearly a year of strained relations between us, getting worse after she returned from her last visit. Jessica had been withdrawn and angry, almost since the day she returned. She was always demanding something: do this, go there, and if I didn't comply, she unleashed her fury. Hard as it was to believe, things got much worse since her last trip. She wasn't the same with Emily, though, or I might have done something about it, but I didn't, and it became almost a habit to quietly endure her tirades and walk away. She had gotten used to doing whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted, and I allowed it to avoid confrontations. Even in front of Emily and in public, I tolerated it. I know people thought I was weak, but it was my choice to avoid scenes. Maybe it was a mistake, but it was too late to worry about that now. Her approach to this trip was typical. After several days of phone calls, she announced her decision to go and simply told me about it. She was going to spend 2 weeks there, no discussion, no consideration of my plans or anything that might have made it difficult for me if she left. She ignored my request for an explanation, telling me to deal with it. She did tell Emily and spent some time with her to ensure she was okay with it and that I knew what needed to be done. She left me a list of things to keep in mind about Emily's activities, but nothing else. She packed her bags the night before, went to bed early, and called a cab to take her to the airport the next morning, making it clear she didn't need my help. She didn't even say goodbye. A quick note about our sex life: there was none. We hadn't been intimate for at least 2 years, certainly not since she lost her job, which was 18 months ago. It had been at least 6 months before that. Whenever I tried to talk about it, she refused. If I made a move in bed, she would get up and go to the spare room, leaving me frustrated and angry. The more I pushed, the harder she resisted. Eventually, I gave up. I considered my options, mentioning some of them to Jessica one night when she refused, and got an earful of threats if she caught me cheating. When I brought up divorce, she laughed and told me to think about my public image when she revealed in court that she shut me out of the bedroom. This led to a furious outburst from me, questioning why she stayed with me when she obviously hated me. Her reaction surprised me. She burst into tears, cried for what felt like hours, and then, once she calmed down, she said she loved me, always had, and always would. She was just under so much stress and so confused that she didn't understand her own behavior. She begged me for patience and promised to find help. Her pleas were so heartfelt that I was stunned, so much so that I remained seated on the bed as she took her clothes and went to the spare room. The next morning, she was back to her normal abusive self. That brings us to today. She'd been gone for about a week. I'd been thinking about our relationship for some time, and I was starting to believe the only option left was divorce. Emily was old enough to handle it, and would probably be happier. She hated how her mother treated me and said so many times, but she was still young, and I tried to hold out for her sake. Maybe now I had no choice. I still loved Jessica despite everything, but I needed more than she was willing to give. The only way to get it was to let her go. The problem was, I believed divorce would hurt me more than it would her. These thoughts were running through my mind as I carried some boxes down from our bedroom to the new storage space under the stairs. Jessica had insisted I clear out our closet to make room downstairs, so I figured it was a good time to do it without her nagging. I was on my 3rd trip down when I slipped, dropping the boxes. I watched them fly as I grabbed the railing to keep from falling. They hit the floor, spilling their contents all over the new carpet. Fortunately, nothing was damaged, so I started reboxing the items. That's when I found a packet of notes or letters tied with a red ribbon. I'd never seen them before, so they piqued my interest. I set them aside, thinking they were love letters to Emily from a boyfriend. I finished repacking the boxes and pushed them under the stairs. After making a couple more trips, I collapsed on the floor, leaning against the wall as I caught my breath. Once I was breathing normally again, I noticed the letters and pulled them toward me. I untied the ribbon and opened the first one. It was addressed to my darling Jessica. A surge of anger washed over me. I'd never written anything like this to Jessica at any time in our marriage or even before. This wasn't from me. My breathing, which had slowed, began to quicken again, but this time from fury. I unfolded the letter, noting the deep creases. It had been folded and unfolded many times, obviously treasured by Jessica. I held it carefully as I read, "My dearest Jessica, I've been thinking about the last night we spent together. I can't get your amazing body out of my mind. Your Aussie kiss drove me wild. It was almost too much to handle, and when you stopped, I wanted to beg for more. The way you embraced me drove me to heaven. I can't stop thinking of you as you leave me to return to your loveless marriage. Why won't you leave him and be with me forever? You know my situation. I'm also trapped in a loveless marriage, and I'd divorce my wife in a heartbeat if you said you'd come to me. Please, my Jessica, reconsider. Tell me you're coming back to me. With all my love, Oliver. The shock was so intense I sat there for almost an hour before I regained my senses. I looked again at the letter, scanned the words, but they were the same. My wife had cheated on me with someone named Oliver Grant, or so the return address indicated. I quickly scanned the letter for a date. There it was, at the top, dated just days after Jessica returned from visiting her sister a year ago. I grabbed the stack of letters and pulled out another. The words were similar, but this one described a different encounter, an Aussie kiss in the front seat of his car in the parking lot of some club. She had done it at his request. He loved it, of course. I would have too if she had ever done that for me, but she hadn't. She always complained it was disgusting. I wondered if his was disgusting too. I quickly went through the rest, and they were all from that same trip. It seemed she met him halfway into her visit and decided to extend the stay to be with him over the weekend. Apparently, Oliver had tried to convince her to leave me, but she wasn't interested. I knew why she didn't want the hassle of making it on her own. Being who she was, she probably demanded he divorce his wife first before she'd consider doing the same. I wondered if she felt anything for him other than lust, the same lust she denied me. I let the last of the letters fall from my fingers as the reality of what she did sank in. Sitting there in the basement, I thought about it all. She had clearly done it, as the letters showed, and kept them. It happened during her trip to visit her sister, as the dates confirmed. I wondered how she got the letters without me noticing. I sorted through the stack and found what I was looking for, a larger envelope, the return address, that of her sister. Her sister had forwarded the letters, meaning she knew what Jessica did and who she did it with. I wasn't surprised, not at all. I carried the letters upstairs and placed them on the table. My mind was racing, trying to decide what to do. I knew my marriage was over, and I'd no longer be her punching bag. Until now, I'd been her puppet, waiting for her to remember that she loved me. But that wasn't the case. She didn't love me, and her behavior showed her contempt for me. She was in love with someone else, and she was just too scared to leave me. That, and the fact that he was married too. Was she sure he'd really leave his wife? That was an interesting question. I considered my options, but kept coming back to the fact that I couldn't stay with Jessica now that I knew she didn't love me. I didn't want to endure any more of her contempt. I knew I should wait and talk to her, but I had no patience for that. No, this was the end. It stops now. I decided that tomorrow I'd hire one of the PIs we used to find out what I needed to know. But before that, I had a few things to do. The first was to save all of Oliver's letters and put them somewhere safe. They were clear evidence of adultery, and as a lawyer I knew just how to use them. Jessica would eventually discover them missing, but until then there was no reason to let her know how much I knew. And I didn't want Emily to see them. I was afraid she'd get the wrong ideas and turn out like her mother, a simple flirt. Once the letters were safely stored, I relaxed and began planning my next moves. 3 days later, on a Tuesday, Jessica called me. She'd only called once the previous week, asking me to send her a few things from her desk. When I asked why she couldn't just wait until she got home, she snapped back with her usual sarcasm about my lack of concern for her. I eventually agreed, still waiting for my PI's report before saying anything. I'd hired him the day after I found the letters, and he'd been in Minneapolis for a few days already, but I hadn't heard from him yet. Jessica didn't say much, just asked once about how Emily was doing, then hung up without any words of affection, typical of her. At my request, the PI had dug through DMV records, city tax records, and anything else to identify Oliver. When I entered my office that Thursday before confronting Jessica, the PI was waiting for me. I told my secretary I wasn't to be disturbed and closed the door. He opened a file and began filling me in. "All right, Mr. Richards, I think I've got what you need. His name's Oliver Grant, 46 years old, married to Elisa Grant. They've got 2 kids. Would you believe the oldest is 18 and the other's 15? He owns a small construction company and spends most of his time there during the day. Seems to be doing all right, nice home in the suburbs, probably worth about $400,000. The older kid's in college. The rest live at home with the wife. She doesn't work, just takes care of the house." He shoved a photo toward me, showing a tall, dark-haired man, well-dressed and fairly good-looking. He looked lean, not much bulk. I stared at it for a few seconds before pushing it back. What else did you find? No major debts, just the mortgage on the house at around $200,000. Business records show regular tax payments and reports of decent income. He's pulling down about $175,000 a year before taxes, not bad. The rest is standard stuff: his address, phone number, names and ages of his kids and wife, copies of his tax returns for the past 3 years, and some comments from his neighbors. He's well-liked, no troublemaker. Oh, and one more thing, you might find this interesting. He's got a couple of escorts he sees regularly. I've got receipts from his last few visits. He sees them pretty consistently once a week, sometimes more. Madam says he's a steady customer. No trouble, prefers the young ones. Hers are all legal, so nothing to worry about there. One thing, did he visit them last week or this week? That's when Jessica was there. Right on time, Tuesday afternoon. Like I told you before, he spent the weekend with your wife at a hotel. Then the rest of the time he was home with his family. Only went out once during the week, and that was Wednesday. Met your wife at a restaurant. They sat together, looking all lovey-dovey, lots of touching. Then he left alone. Your wife drove back and stayed home. I overheard their conversation. She was making plans to meet him again that weekend. I thanked him for his work, took the file, and gave him a voucher for his payment. I sat back and read the report in full to get an idea of this man. The only thing I knew for sure was that I wanted revenge. Since Jessica was going to be responsible for taking care of my daughter, I had to leave her alone. Making her my ex-wife would have to do. It was the Thursday before she was due back, and I was jotting down notes when the phone rang. I was so engrossed that I answered without thinking. Yes, hello? It's me. That's a stupid way to answer the phone. Where's Emily? I want to talk to her for a minute. I just stared at the phone in my hand. Was this the woman who called herself my wife? For the first time, I realized how she talked to me, dismissive, full of contempt. Well, now it ends. I had no desire to string her along. Even though I'm a lawyer and we manipulate people with words, I wanted none of that. I wanted to hurt her, make her suffer, let her feel the pain I felt as I read those damned letters and heard that report. She's not here. Call back later. I slammed the phone down in anger. Screw her. Let her feel my contempt. The phone rang again almost immediately. I let it ring a few times before picking up. Yes, hello? What the hell are you doing hanging up on me? How dare you? Fury in her voice, good. At least she was capable of some emotion. I slammed the phone down again, chuckling to myself. This time the phone didn't ring again, so I went back to my lists. It was nearly midnight when the phone rang. I checked the caller. It was Jessica. I was curious to see how she would handle this, so I answered after 5 rings with the same, "Yes, hello?" "Hello, Tom, it's Jessica. Are you feeling better now? You seemed upset earlier. I decided to wait and hope you'd be better." "I wasn't upset earlier, Jessica. I just didn't want to talk to you when you were making demands. Your constant lack of respect makes me angry, that's all. What do you want?" There was a short silence before she responded. "I'm sorry if you thought I was disrespectful. I was in a hurry and just wanted to talk to Emily. I didn't mean to make demands." "Fine, what do you want, Jessica?" "Why are you calling? I told you Emily wasn't here. What part of that didn't you understand?" Calm. Not angry now that she was being somewhat respectful. "What do you mean, why am I calling? You're my husband and I wanted to talk to you. Why wouldn't I call you when I'm away? Don't you miss me?" "Actually, Jessica, it's been quite peaceful since you've been gone. No yelling, no demands, no disrespect. Emily's happy, spending time with her friends, and I'm doing what I like without criticism. When I go to bed, I have the whole bed to myself. It's not like I'm missing the sex, right? Not for a couple of years now." "So no, I don't miss you. It's been nice with you gone." Again with the silence. "Are you still there, Jessica, or are you done?" "I'm here." "I guess I'm just surprised at how you're talking to me." "Have you been drinking, Tom? You sound very strange. Not a drop, not even a beer. Just some coffee and a few crackers. Gotta watch the weight, you know." "Well, if I didn't know better, I'd think you were happy I'm gone." "I was hoping you'd want me to hurry home, but maybe you'll just stay longer since you don't miss me. Would you like that, Tom?" Now there was the Jessica I knew and loved soft words delivered with sarcasm. And now, with the request to extend the trip, she could spend more time with her lover. This conversation was going as she planned, trying to get me to agree to more days, but I was going to change the direction. Well, I'll tell you what, Jessica. Why don't you and good old Oliver take a few more days like last time? After all, he did miss your wonderful Aussie kiss, didn't he? So instead of rushing back to your loveless marriage, why not make Oliver happy? Go spend a few more days with him. Seems he's been getting your attention more than I have these past couple of years. I slammed down the phone, then pulled the line from the wall. The phones in the bedroom and den started ringing, but they were too far away to be a bother. I pulled out my cell phone and turned that off as well. I wanted nothing more to do with her right now. Her silence was the best part of her being gone. I was honest when I told her it was pleasant with her gone. I thought back over the conversation, and the only good thing I could take from it was the suggestion that I get drunk. That was a suggestion I could handle. I went upstairs to change and get ready for my night out. I shaved, put on some aftershave, and looked in the mirror. Not bad, really, for a guy my age. I was still in decent shape, working out at the gym a couple of times a week. I was reasonably good-looking, my hair starting to gray but still full, and my stomach wasn't too bad, just a little extra that my belt held in check. Not bad at all. I walked back downstairs, checked the voicemail, and deleted all the messages from Jessica. I called Emily at the sleepover to let her know I'd be out, but to call my cell if she needed me. It would be turned off, but I'd check for messages. She assured me I had no need to worry about her and said she wanted to stay there until lunch. I told her about her mom wanting to stay a few extra days, and she seemed pleased. I signed off with love and received hers in return. Just before I left, I took off my wedding ring, put it on a piece of string, and hung it from the mirror in the bathroom. While I didn't expect Jessica to leave her lover and rush home, when she did return, I wanted this to greet her. But more importantly, I didn't want any reminders of her tonight. Tonight was for me. I took one last look around, remembering happier times, then left. I drove across town to a place I hadn't visited in years. It was a bar that catered to singles and was known as the spot to pick up women or men, depending on your need. I knew the owner, having represented him once in a lawsuit against him and his bar. I won, and Joe promised me free drinks for life. Tonight, I was going to test that promise. I was pleased by the warm welcome when I walked in to find the place almost full. Joe saw me, raised his hands in the victory signal, and said something to a woman at the bar. She quickly got up, holding her stool until I reached it. She bowed dramatically, offering me the seat before walking away. Well, well, if it isn't my main man, Tom. How you been, Tom? What can I get you? How's it going, Joe? Long time. How about you bring me a bottle of the good stuff and leave it here? I want to get seriously drunk, and I knew you were the only one I could trust to keep me from getting mugged afterward. You got nothing to worry about. Tell me what's up. She's cheating on me, Joe. Just found out today that she's been doing it for over a year with some jerk in Minneapolis. She and her sister, the two of them, made a fool out of me. Real witches, those two. Joe was good people, but blunt and straightforward. He set a bottle of fine whiskey in front of me, poured the first glass, and set it beside a bottle of beer, telling me to start talking. He waved away another customer trying to get his attention and signaled for someone else to cover the bar. I started talking, and 10 minutes later I was done. Joe just nodded like he knew it all along, then stood up. You go ahead and drink away your troubles. If you need me, just whistle. I'll be around. He moved away and I sipped more whiskey. I'd been drinking steadily for some time when I noticed someone sitting next to me. When I felt a hand brush my thigh, I looked up to see a woman sitting close, one hand on her drink and the other rubbing my leg where it rested against the stool. I looked at the hand, then at her, and found she was worth looking at some more. She was a blonde, her hair a bright golden color, her eyes blue as the sky. The face was gorgeous, but what stood out was that it was an older face. I guessed around 42 or 45. This was a real woman, not a girl. Her face had character, intelligence. Hello there. Who are you? My words were slurred but still managed to sound smooth. "Hello yourself. I'm Lisa, Lisa Thompson. And you are?" "Tom. My name's Tom. And you are beautiful, Lisa." Her smile was worth every compliment. I wanted to keep her smiling. I searched my beer-addled brain for more words. "What's a beautiful woman like you doing alone in a place like this? I can't believe you have to come here to find someone. Any man would give his right arm to be seen with you." She smiled, but it quickly disappeared, replaced by sadness that couldn't ruin her beautiful face but made me sad too. I wanted to take away that sadness. "Why so sad?" "You shouldn't be sad." I looked down at her hand, still rubbing my thigh, and noticed the wedding ring. "Your husband cheating on you like my wife?" "No, far from it. My husband was killed in Afghanistan. He was a captain and his unit was ambushed. He died along with most of his men. It happened 2 years ago. I miss him so much." She bowed her head for a few seconds, but when she looked up, her eyes were clear. They say time heals all wounds. For her sake, I hoped it was true. We talked for hours, and eventually we left together. I was too drunk to drive, but she wasn't. We ended up at her place, and while I would love to brag about what happened, I think I passed out. The last thing I remember is her pulling off my shoes, and while I was interested in the possibilities, I apparently lacked the will. I woke the next morning in a strange bed, alone and confused. It took me a minute to remember where I was before I saw the beautiful woman from last night, holding a tray with coffee and 2 cups. She wore a thin robe that revealed more than it covered. I lost interest in the coffee quickly, and when she put the tray down, I reached for her. She came willingly, and the next thing I knew, we were lost in a tender kiss that wouldn't stop. Her lips were soft and warm. We figured it out quickly and lost ourselves in each other. We shared a gentle embrace, then fell back against each other, both somewhat embarrassed. I looked at her and saw she was grinning. Well, wasn't that something special? I feel like I'm back in high school. She was almost laughing at the look on my face. Yes, it certainly was. It's good to know I'm not the only one who enjoyed it. I smiled back, noticing again how beautiful she was. "Do you come to Joe's often? I can't believe a woman like you would go to a bar and not have company. No man could resist you." I was serious, and she saw that. She looked deep into my eyes before looking away. "I'll tell you the truth, but you have to let me finish before you say anything. Do you promise?" "I promise. Tell me. Joe called me at home. Has my brother. He told me to come over and meet a nice man. He said you were in trouble and that I might be able to help." She sat up, pulling her knees to her chest and wrapping her arms around them. She looked like a young girl, so beautiful and alive. "When I got there, you were already pretty far gone, but the more I talked to you, the more I liked you, and the more I began to feel something inside me again. That's why I invited you here to my bed. I wanted someone to comfort me for the first time since my husband died. You were that someone, and it was everything I hoped it would be." I was quiet as I looked into her deep blue eyes. She was being honest, and I could see it. What she did because she wanted to, not out of pity or kindness. I told her that and more as we talked. I wanted to know more about this woman, and we made plans to stay in touch. She knew my situation and knew I'd be occupied with it for some time, but she offered me her shoulder to cry on or her bed to share any time I wanted it, with her in it, of course. I laughed but accepted in complete seriousness. We shared another embrace before I got dressed and headed home. It was just past noon when I pulled in at home, Lisa having driven me back to get my car at Joe's bar. The house was quiet, and once inside, I confirmed it was empty. I wasn't surprised to find Jessica hadn't rushed home to try to save our marriage, but I was a little disappointed. I had thought that 16 years would mean more to her. Apparently not. I walked into the kitchen to make coffee when I noticed the answering machine light blinking. I checked the log 10 calls, all from Jessica's cell phone. There was one more, from a number I recognized as Jessica's dad. We talked often enough for me to remember his number. That one was interesting enough to play. "Tom, it's Dave. When you get this, please give me a call. Jessica and her sister have gone up to the cabin for a few days at my urging. Jessica wanted to come home right away, but I talked her out of it. They both have a lot of thinking to do. Some things you might guess. Call me on this number, it's my cell. Take care. Interesting. I'd call him back once I was ready. Meanwhile, I listened to several of Jessica's messages, all variations of yelling about me not knowing what I was talking about and generally demeaning me again. The last couple were less demanding and more desperate, but none made any impression on me. I deleted them all. I checked to see if Emily was home, but there was no sign of her. She said she'd be back after lunch, so I had some time. I suddenly felt hungry and made a sandwich and grabbed a cold beer to help ease the hangover. I ate slowly, thinking of the morning with Lisa, and that alone was enough to put me in a good mood. I finished up, took the phone into the family room, and called Dave. "Hi, Dave. It's Tom, returning your call." "Tom, I'm glad you called. I know what's going on, and that's why I'm calling. I sent Jessica and her sister to the cabin to get them away from here. I'm furious with both of them, and you know part of why." "Well, all I know is that Jessica's been having an affair with some guy named Oliver Grant. It started last year when she was there, or at least I think it did. It may have been earlier. And for your information, I believe her sister knew about it too. She was the one who forwarded his love letters to Jessica here. That's all I know, Dave." "Well, yes, that's the bulk of it. I overheard a conversation between her and her sister that she was going to spend a weekend with him. That's why she called you, telling you she was going to stay a few extra days. I was furious with Jessica, but she just cried when I yelled at her. She's been crying since your phone call last night. Her sister was being a pain, telling her you didn't deserve her, that she was smart for finding someone else, that kind of crap. I slapped her across the face the first time in our marriage that I've ever hit her. It made me sick, but honestly, Tom, she deserved it." I could hear the pain in Dave's voice, but I was also angry, knowing what Jessica and her sister did to me. They bore some responsibility for destroying our marriage, but they wouldn't see that as a bad thing. Too bad I didn't see it coming. Too bad Jessica was so easily led down the path of betrayal. It was too easy for her. It shouldn't have been. Dave told me he was going to drive up to see them both tonight and to wait for his call. He asked if I wanted to talk to Jessica, and I told him no. I had nothing to say to her right now, and maybe never again. I had to think about it. He understood, and we hung up. Emily came home about an hour later, and rather than waste both our time, I told her what I knew about her mother. It wasn't out of cruelty, but out of respect. Emily was growing up fast, and she had seen what was happening in the marriage. She was caught in the middle, and I wanted her to know what was going on. She had decisions to make, and I wanted to prepare her. If the marriage ended, she was old enough to decide where she wanted to go. We listed the pros and cons, and she understood. It wasn't an emotional decision, but a practical one. She was almost an adult, and she had to do what was best for her now and later on. We talked for hours, and it made me proud to see how she handled it. In the end, we both agreed it was best for her to stay here with her mother. School, meetings, and such would require someone to be free enough to see to her. I couldn't do that. I promised her that I would always make sure she was cared for and that her education wouldn't be compromised. It was almost 5:00 when the phone rang. Emily answered, and I heard her say, "Mom, how could you?" I let her talk with her mother first and went outside to sit on the porch. I hated for her to deal with this, but she had her own life to live, and what we did would affect her, so she might as well be part of it. I was still thinking of how I wanted to handle it when she brought the phone to me. "Here, Dad, it's her. I don't want to talk to her again." She had tears in her eyes as she handed me the phone. I wanted to comfort her, but she left quickly, leaving me alone just as I had left her. I watched her go, in no hurry to speak to Jessica. "Hello, Jessica." Just that and no more. I was already exhausted with this whole thing. It had only been a day, give or take, but it felt like weeks of turmoil. Why did you have to tell Emily? Why were you so cruel, just to hurt me, just to get back at me? Jessica was back to her old self, no problem for her. Just lash out at anybody nearby, never accept guilt. Well, I was fed up with it all. "Go to hell, you cheating tramp. When you can talk to me decently, call. Otherwise, don't bother to call or come back here. Goodbye." I disconnected and held the phone limply in one hand while I waited to see what she would do. It didn't take long. The phone rang. Hello? I know I sounded like death, but that's how I felt. Tom, I apologize. I was just shaken that you told Emily what I did. I don't know why you had to do that. I guess it's because you hate me now, isn't it? Actually, Jessica, everything isn't about you. You may not believe me, but why I told her had nothing to do with you. What you did is going to affect her life as well as mine, so I felt she deserved to be treated with the respect you've denied me all this time. I told her to give her time to learn to deal with it. That's why. And as for your apology, shove it up your rear. There was a pause as she processed that, then a quiet question. Do you hate me, Tom? No, I don't hate you. To be honest, I have no emotions when I think of you. The past 2 years have almost killed all the love or any emotion I had for you. I guess I do feel some anger when I think of you and him, but I'll get over it. You've done a good job of killing whatever I had left for us inside me. Would you believe me if I said I'm sorry, that I wish it had never happened? I am so sorry that I let it happen. You didn't deserve this. I'm really sorry, Tom. Well, like I said, Jessica, there's just a hole inside me where thoughts of you used to be. Now it's empty. You asked me the other night if I missed you. The answer is no, and you're right. You should never have let it happen. That's what our marriage vows were about, our promises to each other. Remember them? Forsaking all others? You broke those vows, and now I have to accept there's nothing left. And once again, I don't need your apologies. They don't mean anything to me anymore. Please tell me you don't mean that, Tom. Please tell me you don't feel that way. I'll be home as soon as I can and we can work this out. I know I've done something awful, but I'll make it up to you if you just give me a chance. I don't want to work it out anymore. I'd prefer if you just stay away for a while longer. These last few days have been very peaceful for me. I'm doing quite well without you. Now Emily and I have some decisions to make about her future. She'll make them by herself and I won't influence her. She probably should stay here with you if she can. She's only got a year and a few months. Tom, you're talking as if it's over between us. Please don't make any decisions like that until I have a chance to talk to you. I know I've screwed up big time, but I can make it up to you if you'll only give me a chance. Tom, I realize now that I love you more than I knew. I forgot for a while, but now I remember why I loved you. I do, and I don't want to lose you. Please wait for me, Tom. Wait till I get home. I piss on your love for me, you tramp. Your love means nothing to me, Jessica. It stinks, and I'd rather stay away from it for the rest of my life. As for me, this marriage is over. And like I said, don't bother coming home right away, Jessica. I hung up quickly, tears starting to flow when I heard her begin to plead with me. I knew it was just an echo of the love I had for Jessica before she did this to me. That love would die soon, but for now, I still had to endure the pain of separation. The phone began to ring almost as soon as I hung up. I glanced at the caller ID. It was Jessica, and I ignored it. I was done talking to her. I was done with her. That was becoming more and more clear as the reality of her betrayal sank in. It was almost noon the following Wednesday when my secretary let me know I had a call from my wife. It had been 2 days since I'd told her I wasn't accepting calls from Jessica, so this was a surprise. I asked why she took the call, and she said it was forwarded from Linda Jackson. From Linda? Hell, I'd forgotten that Jessica and Linda were friends. Linda was a real piece of work, having gone through 4 marriages already. Just the role model for my soon-to-be ex. All right, I'll take it. Not your fault, Susie, thanks. I pushed the button for line 1. Yes, what is it? This had better be good. Linda, I won't forget this little betrayal. Whoa, Tom, I had no idea there were problems. But what the hell are you doing, you jerk? You won't even talk to your wife. She's on. When I hang up, talk to her. Hello, Jessica. What can I do for you? Serious and even-tempered. You can come home and talk to me. I'm at home, Tom, so please, can we talk? Whose home is that, Jessica? Oliver Grant's home? Certainly not our home. You've destroyed that one, haven't you? I heard the muffled sob. So she had decided on tact and begging. Tom, please come home and talk to me. I owe you an explanation, and I promise to give it to you without any lies or excuses. Please, Tom, come home. What do you really want, Jessica? Just to be taken care of while you do whatever you please behind my back. Isn't that what you've been doing for the past couple of years? You treat me like garbage, refuse to be with me, make my life miserable. Then you ran off and betrayed me a year ago when you said you were visiting that tramp you call your sister. You did it again this time. You made plans to spend the weekend with him again, just like last time, and you were going to manipulate me into agreeing that you should stay longer. Was the intimacy that much better with him? You let him do things you wouldn't let me do, so he must really be something. I was letting my anger show now. The fury that had been building needed an outlet. Now that she was here, she was the target. Please, Tom, I guess I deserve that, but you're wrong. You're wrong about Oliver and me. I didn't even see him this trip, I swear. Jessica, you spent the entire weekend with him at the Hilton. And what about Wednesday? Doesn't dinner count? Where you made plans to meet over the weekend, telling him you were going to get your clueless husband to insist you stay longer, sitting close together, touching, and who knows what else. Or do you just count the times you were intimate as seeing him? How did you— I just met him briefly to tell him it was over, that I never wanted to see him again. Honest, Tom. I didn't go anywhere with him, and that was the only time I saw him. That's more lies, Jessica. I know what you did. And what about the last trip? Didn't you give him an Aussie kiss in the parking lot? Didn't you sleep with him? Do you deny any of that? Silence. The truth was hitting her hard now. Keep it coming. I was feeling good finally, some retribution. Did you and Oliver talk about his 2 kids? How about his oldest? Did he mention them and his wife, Lisa? Did you two talk about her? Did you laugh about your clueless spouses, laughing at how you were pulling the wool over our eyes? The scream from the other end of the line was enough to surprise me. I held the phone away from my ear, but I heard the click as she hung up. I hung up feeling exhausted, wrung out like a wet rag, limp. I had 2 choices. One, I could go home and talk to Jessica, let her try to justify what she did. Or 2, I could start making plans to end this charade of a marriage while I had the pain and anger burning inside me. I chose the latter. I called in 2 of my young associates, one specializing in divorce, and briefed them on my situation. It was easier than I thought now that I looked at it as just another case, something I'd done every day for the past 15 years. My name was on this one, but that was the only difference. They quickly forgot it was their boss's wife and got to work. The first thing I wanted was to file suit in Minnesota for alienation of affections. It was rare but legitimate, and I was going to pursue it. I'd probably lose, but that was fine. I didn't care about money. I wanted him to answer in court for his philandering, and I wanted his wife and kids to know. She'd get hurt, I understood that, but she needed to know what her husband was capable of. She could decide what to do about him then. I handed the letters to one of my associates and told him to prepare a motion for a handwriting analysis and confirmation that they came from Mr. Oliver Grant. After reading the top one, he smiled and tucked them into his briefcase. He was flying to Minneapolis tomorrow to file and get things started. The other associate and I outlined steps to close accounts, transfer money to other accounts, have an outside audit of my holdings, and estimate their value. We decided on how to move certain assets before the audit to protect some major holdings. I signed a power of attorney and sat back, watching him get to work. These 2 were ruthless when set loose, and that's what I was counting on: maximum pain for them, minimum loss for me. By the end of the day, things were moving fast, and I was ready to head home. It was time to begin separating Jessica and me. She started it, but I was going to finish it. As I walked down the hall to my car, it occurred to me that when love turns to hate, there's no limit to the pain that follows. I walked into the house to find Jessica sitting on the couch with Emily in the family room. It was clear Emily had been crying, and Jessica looked little better. Both turned to me as I entered. Emily jumped up, ran to me, and hugged me. She whispered in my ear, "Good luck, Dad, but whatever happens, I love you." I watched her walk away, her head held high despite the pain. She was a good girl with a strong will, and she'd be fine. She was nothing like her mother, and that thought gave me peace. I sighed, walked into the room, and sat down in one of the chairs Jessica bought during her couple's phase-matching chairs and a couch. I hated both. "Well, Jessica, I'm here. You wanted to talk. Tell me why you ruined our lives. Why you betrayed Emily and me, I don't know. I know that's not an answer, but it's true. I just don't know why I did it. I went to visit my sister to get away from everything. I had no intention of doing anything but just getting away, and for the first week, that's all I did. Then my sister introduced me to this man. She said he was a friend from work and that he was in a bad marriage, and would I talk to him? She seemed calm now, and I wondered what she thought would justify her actions. I had to admit, I was curious. We went to dinner that Friday, the night before I was to fly home. We talked. He was very charming, complimenting me a lot. He'd touch my hand, then push a lock of hair off my face. He was smooth, and I was swept away. As the evening went on, I felt drawn to him in ways I hadn't felt for a long time, even with you. I know now it was wrong, but by the end of the evening I wanted him. I wanted him badly. You know, we hadn't been intimate for months before I went. My desire, my drive was almost gone, but that night with him, it came back. He saw that and he drove me to a motel. We spent the entire night together. The next day I called you and said I was staying a few extra days. I spent them with Oliver at the motel. I listened as anger boiled inside me, almost white-hot by the time she got to this point. The pain of her betrayal was so strong, I wanted to get up and leave, but I couldn't give her that satisfaction. Instead, I sat there, pretending to be under control, and listened. What I wanted to do was scream at her. Only my self-control stopped me. I came home and never told you about Oliver. I didn't call or talk to him after that, and I tried to forget what I'd done. But I also never came to you for intimacy because I felt you'd somehow know I'd been unfaithful. I couldn't risk that. You may not believe me, but I do love you, and I'm so ashamed of what I've done that I think I might just die. She stopped, tears falling, her head bowed in shame. While I believed the shame was real, I believed nothing else, not her love for me, her reasons, or her fear of my finding out. None of that felt true. Well, that's quite a story, Jessica. Why don't I believe a word of it? I'll tell you why. First, you shut me out long before you left and were already treating me poorly then. Second, I know some of the things you did with him, things you never considered doing with me. Why is that, do you suppose? Why give to him what you refused me? And you were going to do it again this time. I had you investigated, and I know you met him the first weekend and spent it with him. I also know that Wednesday night you made plans to spend the weekend with him again. I was breathing hard, my chest heaving, fists clenched so hard my knuckles were white. I knew she could see the fury in my eyes, but I wasn't done. You've denied me your affection for almost 2 years. You denied me your love and your body for even longer, and to make it worse, you gave it to someone else. You did things with him you never did with me, things you refused to try with me. You gave him things you said were too dirty to attempt. You gave him what was mine. You and your sister planned this. I know she never liked me, but what I don't understand is what your sister had against his wife and kids. She must have known that Lisa might find out and that his marriage would be destroyed, but she didn't care. She didn't care about your marriage or his marriage. She's always hated me. And she led you down the path of betrayal without a second thought. And you followed her without hesitation. It was too easy for you, Jessica. Too easy to betray me and our marriage. That shouldn't have been the case. It shouldn't have been so easy. And that's why I knew it was over. That's what convinced me that there is no love left in this marriage. You just recognized it first. I had to find out the hard way. Jessica jumped up and crossed the room, reaching for me. I wanted none of it. I slapped her arms away, rose and stepped back. Stay away from me. I want nothing to do with you. Just leave me alone. Tom, please, you can't mean that. No, I won't stay away. I love you and I won't give you up. I will walk away right now if you try to touch me again. Giving up on this marriage is no longer your choice, Jessica. You threw that away when you went to that motel room with Oliver Grant. You slammed the door shut when you stayed with him that weekend and planned to do it again this time. There is no longer any love in my heart for you. You've killed all of it with your betrayal. Jessica fell to the floor, hands covering her face as she listened to me end her life as my wife. She was still Jessica Thompson, but she'd never be Jessica Richards again. That role was over, and I'd already set things in motion to take my name back. What she didn't yet know was how I planned on punishing her lover. I had planned on being out of the house before this, but things got a little rushed. I'll sleep in the spare room until I move out. You better stay away from me and don't talk to me. Emily knows everything, so she'll understand. Jessica didn't seem to be listening, so I went upstairs to move my things into the spare room. I'd pack the rest later, but I needed a few things now. When I went into the bathroom to get my supplies, I saw the ring still hanging where I left it. I looked at it and walked away, letting it stay. I was sitting in the den a few days later working on some papers I wanted to file when the phone rang. Since I wasn't sure if Jessica was home, I reached for it. I must have picked it up at the same moment Jessica did because I heard her say hello in a quiet, subdued manner. To my surprise, it was Oliver Grant. I didn't know he called here. I covered the mouthpiece and listened. Jessica, it's me. Oliver, what's going on? Oliver, I told you never to call me here. I told you I never wanted to see you or talk to you again. So why are you calling? Did you know that idiot husband of yours has filed suit against me in court for alienation of affections? He filed it here in Minneapolis. He had me served at home in front of my wife and kids. He subpoenaed my wife. He's suing me for $500,000. He's what? Oh my God, I knew he found out. But I didn't know he'd go this far. I heard a smothered laugh before she continued. I'm sorry, Oliver, but it's out of my hands. Guess you'll have to tell your wife now, won't you? Guess your broken marriage is really going to break up now, you lying piece of trash. After the lies you told me about your broken marriage, your hated wife, your pending divorce, you deserve this. So go to hell. She slammed the phone down while he was still yelling. I listened until he finally gave up and then put down my receiver. From what I heard, it sounded like Oliver and Jessica's sister cooked up a plan and sold a story to Jessica, and she was stupid enough to fall for it. Too damned bad. She was too willing to be led by both her sister and her lover, too willing to turn her back on me and our marriage. Too easy. That was the problem. Jessica walked in just then, looked at me with a sad expression and said, "You had this all planned out, didn't you? You were just waiting until you had it all in place before confronting me. I've been married to you for almost 20 years, and I can't believe I forgot your motto. Give them maximum pain and make it hurt for a long time. I guess you're going for the maximum with Oliver. How about me? What do you have planned for me? For you? Nothing, Jessica. I hated what Oliver did to me, even if you were partly responsible. He knew better. He has a wife and 2 kids, and he's screwing my wife. He's going to pay as much as I can make him. And I've offered to pay Lisa for her divorce if she chooses to go that way. Maybe if you play your cards right, you can marry him when she kicks him out. You know better. I don't love him. I don't even like him right now. He lied to me about everything. He and my sister. I hate her and I hate him. She looked at me with that look she always used to get what she wanted. Can't you forgive me and let me make it up to you? I'll never do anything like this again. You know that. Please, Tom, let me make it up. Sorry, Jessica. You had your chance and you made your choice. Like I said, it was too easy for you to walk away from me. Too easy by far. You made your choice and it was the wrong one. I put down my papers, turned off the desk light, and stood. She took in the suit and tie, freshly polished shoes. I was dressed to go out and she saw that. Don't wait up for me. I have a date tonight and I probably won't be back till morning. I had a date with Lisa Thompson tonight. She told me to bring my pajamas. When I asked why, she just laughed and said it might be fun to undress me in the morning. As I left the house, I looked back to see Jessica standing in the doorway, tears in her eyes. 5 days later, I met Dave at a local bar. We had a long discussion on what I planned to do and when I would divorce Jessica. We also had a new plan for her sister. 3 days later, Dave met me at my office as a client. We had a long discussion, and I introduced him to my 2 associates. After 3 hours, Dave left. 5 days later, Jessica's sister was served at her house. She screamed and ran to hit Dave right in front of the process server. The server quickly called 911, and after 15 minutes, Jessica's sister was handcuffed and seated in the back of a police car. I helped Dave get a restraining order, keeping her away from him for the next 3 weeks, enough time for Dave to clean the house and leave. What we had done was transfer everything that Dave owned to my daughter, Emily, as a trust fund. The house was already owned by Dave before the marriage, so it wasn't part of their marriage. He had little money left after the trust fund and the transfer to offshore accounts, so Jessica's sister was in for a rude awakening. Dave never had to go to court. The judge was a friend of Emily's, and the divorce was quick, both parties getting half of what they owned. Jessica's sister got $10,000 as her settlement. Dave, by then, was already living in Costa Rica. Everything was over in 3 months. Jessica's sister now lives in a retirement community. As for my ex-wife, our divorce was long and drawn out. They even tried to get me into marriage counseling. Fortunately, the counselor was a friend, and the report to the judge was quick. It helps to have friends in the right places. It took a whole year to get the divorce finalized. By the time it was over, I had the house to myself and custody of Emily. The court asked Emily about her choice, and she chose me over her mother. My ex-wife got visitation rights, but Emily never saw her. Every time she was supposed to visit, she said, "Hi, Mom, I gotta go. See you later," and just left. Jessica knew she wasn't wanted. In the last 2 years, she's aged badly and has started having health issues. I'll be marrying Lisa soon. Emily and Lisa are busy planning the wedding. Dave is enjoying his time in Costa Rica and often makes video calls with his new girlfriends. They change on every call. As for Oliver, he was bankrupted after his divorce. His wife took everything: money, investments, house. Too many mouths to feed, that's what the mother of 2 kids pleaded in court. The judge, a close friend of a friend, was moved by her plea. Her divorce fee was a gift from me. Jessica's sister is still in that retirement community, and Emily once told me she curses me every day. Well, karma works in strange ways. Thanks for sticking around to hear this intense story of betrayal and revenge. What would you do if you were in Tom's shoes? Could you walk away, or would you seek justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping stories like this one.